Greetings, Summoner! League of Legends is a quite complex game, and from year to year it becomes more and more difficult. More champions, more items, more runes and active effects. Understanding patch changes doesn't come easy. Today, we shall tell you about the main patch 8.11 changes, which mostly impact ADCs, some jungle aspects and bring us a new champion, Pyke, whose guide will be released on our website in the nearest future. So let's start with minor champions changes. Anivia's Q gets a small buff, which will improve her laning phase and mid-game. Now, landing your Q in teamfights and skirmishes will play a more significant role. These changes are definitely good for experienced players who can hit Flash Frost. After Taliyah's push potential and wall nerf, Anivia will be one of the most popular zone mages in the game, so I guess her popularity will grow not only in pro play, but also in solo queue. Taliyah's strong points are fast wave clear, roam potential and terrain control with her ultimate for zoning enemies from main objectives. Now pushing the lane is gonna be much harder, cause Threaded Volley no longer deals AoE damage. That means Taliyah's impact on other lanes will decrease. Weaver's wall is also nerfed and now its duration is significantly shorter. However, there is also some good news. Taliyah's mobility is increased due to basic movement speed and passive ability. Also, Threaded Volleys and Seismic Shove's cooldowns are decreased, thus making Taliyah stronger in early game duels with other mages. Her playstyle now resembles Syndra, lane domination comes first and roams come second. In any case, it will take players a lot of time to adapt to her new playstyle, so her win rate and popularity in solo queue will definitely drop. One of the best mage assassins in the game, LeBlanc, gets a nice buff in this patch. Now you can queue up Costs of Distortion. This change will greatly empower experienced LeBlanc players with good mechanics, allowing them to buy precious split seconds in fights. Victor isn't in the best shape right now, his early game is too weak. This patch buff partially compensates his cons, but still isn't enough to bring him to the next level. Zyra's root duration is slightly increased. This buff should make Zyra a more popular pick in solo queue and pro plays, especially now, when ADC's early game damage is decreased and they need supports with stronger harass abilities. Now, jungle changes. In this patch, Riot slightly nerfed junglers who are relatively strong at level 2. Graves is number 1 on the list. In the current meta, he is the top 1 jungler, but despite Riot's efforts to nerf him, these changes are definitely not enough to knock him off the pedestal. Now he has slightly less damage, but he's still a ranged champion with level 2 mobility, and with red buff, he'll still be stronger than most junglers. Xin Zhao's nerf is connected to the Phase Rush rune, which has become very popular among high rate players. Xin has enough slow effects from his abilities, which when stacked with the rune, granted him a way too high speed advantage for chasing his targets. These changes will help his targets get more chances of escape. Interestingly enough, Xin was one of the few champions who could deal with Graves at early levels. The bug finally gets the long-awaited nerf of his stealth in the brush. His evolved ultimate gave him too much mobility. Kha'Zix could sneak around the map relatively undetected by even control totems. Now, wards can reveal Kha'Zix's location before a fight, giving you a better idea what side he can come from. However, focusing Kha'Zix in teamfights will be much harder, as R's evolved stealth duration is increased to 2 seconds. These changes bring Kha'Zix back to his old evolved skill order, Q at level 6 and ultimate at levels 11 and 16, when it's teamfights time. Rift's Cutler is now a highly contestable objective, so Riot increased its respawn time and shrine duration, which now lasts 90 seconds instead of 75. Long-lasting vision in the Riva will weaken gank potential on the bot lane for the junglers who can't leap over walls. However, jungle camp's increased experience will allow junglers who get behind in the early game catch up a bit in the mid-game. This change will mostly play into the hands of the junglers who can't contest Scuttler at early levels. Alright, so now let's check items which don't have impact on ADCs. Banner of Command was too strong against champions with magic damage. Killing a siege minion buffed with Banner was nearly impossible for them. We will hardly see Banner of Command in the mid lane again, but in the top lane it will remain a relevant option against champions with low damage. Initially, this item was supposed to help teams with low siege potential gain that potential. But the problem is, the item lost 10% CDR, thus becoming less appealing for supports. So we can conclude that Banner of Command will be less and less picked in games. Shurelya's Reverie gets a nerf, which will mostly affect Vladimir, who buys this item first of all. However, base mana regeneration will be good on support champions, and 90-second cooldown will make its use a bit more reasonable during teamfights. Runic Echoes buff is another reason for mage junglers to demonstrate their power. The recipe change and AP boost will greatly buff such junglers as Fiddlesticks, Evelynn and Elise. Rune changes mostly affect the mid and bot lanes. Let's start with the Fleet Footwork nerf. Now, Marksman gonna have much less sustain during the laning phase due to heal and haste nerfs. Besides, this change brings lifesteal items to the next level. ADCs will have to build them before teamfights start, cause surviving only with Fleet Footwork is now a no-go. However, Fleet Footwork will become more appealing for melee champions who rarely take Conqueror or press the attack runes, so we might see it in the top lane more often, probably on Fiora or Gnar. Hail of Blades is made for champions who receive a significant boost after a couple of AAs. A good example is Vayne, who can proc passive after 3 swift attacks and leave a teamfight. This rune will have good impact on all fighters like Vi, Udyr, Xin Zhao or even Jax, who will be able to land the third empowered attack from his ultimate's passive faster, and then reset AA timer with Titanic Hydra. Ultimate Hat is weakened and moved to Domination path. Now receiving 2% CDR on the ultimate is much harder, as getting unique takedowns on champions is more difficult than just using the ultimate like in the previous patch. However, in Domination path, more champions will be able to use the Ultimate Hunter rune. Nimbus Cloak is the new rune in the Sorcery path, which grants bonus movement speed after casting the ultimate. Plus, you can pass through units. This effect decays over the next 2.5 seconds and has 60 seconds cooldown, which can be affected by CDR items. This rune can compete with celerity on champions whose playstyle is based on the ultimate. For teamfights, this rune can be combined with Phase Rush and Ultimate Hunter, and used on champions like Vladimir or Victor. Turrets receive some changes that will help sieging teams. They can no longer regenerate their full HP, even though turret health regeneration is increased. Sieging teams won't have to deal with full HP turrets on the second attack. Inner turret local gold reward buff will empower split push champions with good scale like Fiora, Gangplank, Riven, Yorick, and will make 4+1 strategies more appealing. Alright, the best patch changes we'll save for dessert. In Riot's opinion, they will help marksmen to adapt to the patch much better. Also, they will greatly empower champions with weak AAs. Thanks, Riot. Alright, so that's the end of the first part of our patch changes review. In the next part, we shall discuss marksmen and their item changes. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and as always, good luck in your solo queue.